everybody, it's Romania Black, and it's been a while, but we're back to Yona of the Dawn. Yes! So excited. I was really sad because the moment that the Discord was like, Romania, chapter 246 is out for Yona of the Dawn. You can look at volume 42 now. I was like, I was knee deep in trying to record things, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have time to get to it this month. I don't know if I can do it. And then one of the shows that I'm recording went on a hiatus, and I was like, I have time. So I've been waiting to get to this volume for so long because we ended on a damn cliffhanger with the last one. And I had to go back and reread the contents of volume 41. And I had a couple comments that were extra to add to that as we get to this one. I just got home from work. I had to stay late tonight for an event, and I got home and I was like, just like shoved everything aside. And I was like, I need to read Yona of the Dawn. So, the one comment I did have was from Soy, who talked about how Mainyon's haircut and her character going through a change is very similar to Yona, and how she cut her hair and went through a very similar change as well. There's a lot of similarities, and there's still, we were talking about how, you know, where is the story going to from here? What is Kusanagi going to do? And they were talking about how we still don't know much about North Kai and the Kai Kingdom. And so we still may have a lot to touch on, which is nice because I'm not ready for this series to be anywhere close to ending. We have too much to talk about. And so I'm really glad that we have that to look forward to. But yeah, I went back and looked through volume 41. The idea of Yona, does she have future sight like her mom? I was very against the idea at first because I don't know. It seemed like kind of cliche that she has the same powers as her mom. But if Kusanagi can make it something that's Yona's own ability and is a little bit different, then I'm like, okay, I can get behind that as long as it's not the exact carbon copy of her mom's. I'm always kind of, whenever there's characters in stories that have children and their powers are the same as their parents or whatever, it's just kind of, I don't feel like it's a very creative trope. So, but I trust Kusanagi would do something creative with it. So there's that. There's the chalice that Chagel took that had the dragon's blood in it, supposedly. And Zeno's really worried about it, but he's trying to hide it. And Jaha's kind of picked up that this is something we should be, you know, paying attention to. But that's apparently in his possession. And then the dragons have been captured with the exception of Kija. And Chagel reveals that he finds Mainyon not as interesting as he once did when he first met her because she seems so vulnerable. And she believes she's lost Val and she's heartbroken. And Chagel ain't here for vulnerability and heartbreak. He's here for the stone cold badass bitches. And I'm like, you can't have one without the other. So yeah, Chagel got a lot more dimension in the last volume, which was nice. I'm glad it makes him not just a run-of-the-mill villain, but he has some layers to him. But he's still a very big problem in this series, or has been up until now. And so then we have the idea that Chagel uses a trap, and then the trap gets sprung right back on him by Yona. Yona goes and stands at the gallows, and it's basically to get Algira and Vold there to help rescue her and Mainyon, which was great. It was a great reveal. And then meanwhile, Kaji helps Algira and Vold because he's loyal to Mainyon. And Yotaka. Yotaka is the one I always forget his name. He's the 5-star that has the long hair. I always forget his name. It's Yotaka. I had like that underlined here, but like, don't forget it, Romania. But he helps Kija to supposedly go off and try to rescue the dragons. Hak shows up. That part where he shows up behind Chagel is absolutely wonderful. And then Yona confronting Chagel. I love Yona and Hak back to back. It's one of my favorite points. We've gotten to this point in the series. They can fight side by side, equals with each other. It's just mwah, chef's kiss. I love it. And then yes, Val meets up with Mainyon again. She has her little sentimental moment. She basically wants them to get married. I don't blame her. And then the Wind Tribe, Gulfin and Soo-won show up, and Hak saving Soo-won from Chagel. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I need them to talk. Maybe they'll talk in this volume. That'd be great. And then Chagel getting hit by Yona's arrow. I was like, so much happened in the last volume. And Ron comes in to grab Chagel and go away with him. And so when we left off, Ron had ran off with Chagel, who has this supposedly fatal wound. Kija met up with everybody and says that Jaha and the others are being taken to Phoenix Palace, but him and Kaji and Yona supposedly sabotaged the carriages so that wouldn't happen. But we left off at such a cliffhangery moment that I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. So I'm really excited though. I'm excited to go through this and see what we get and just talk with you all about it. I'm going to take notes. I'm ready because we've got chapters 241 to 246 and I am ready to take notes and take names and talk about it and see what all we get. Oh my gosh. But it has been a long time coming and I'm really excited to be here. So yeah, we'll just have to see, won't we? Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the philanthropy tier over on Patreon. I'm very thankful for all the support that everybody here on YouTube as well as Patreon gives me. It helps me be able to do the things that I like doing. And I'm so, so grateful and humbled by your kindness and support. So the philanthropy tier, that tier gets the benefits of everybody in the other tiers, as well as getting a shout out in my videos and breaking any ties in the polls if we have them. So I want to give a special shout out to the philanthropy tier members at this time, to Edgar, to Dana, to Alex Cornejo, to Be Happy, to Kiri, to Shimoyama, to Nameless Monster, to Argent, to Matthew Palfinair, as well as Tyrone, Anime Annie, Eric Sunspots, Translucent Men, Anna Legatus, and Goob. Thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, all of my love. I want to savor this volume because I know I got very lucky. I didn't have to wait a long time for this volume to come out. I ended, I think, right as chapter 243 or 244 was coming out. So I didn't have to wait too long, but I know this chapter 246 just came out. And so I know I'm gonna have to wait a while now for volume 43. And I'm like, So I want to savor this volume as much as I can. Also want to thank Project Vinland for translating this into fan translations because the official copies aren't coming out for like another year. And I can't wait that long. I'm going to buy the official releases, of course, because I want to support Kusanagi, but I can't wait. Also, having watched Vinland Saga, it's funny that it's Project Vinland. That's great. It's a good time. But yeah, so we're going to see what all happens this volume. I can't wait. But we're going to look into volume 42 of Yona of the Dawn. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Things are not okay. This is not fine. Things are not fine. Kusanagi, what are you doing? Why are you trampling on our souls? Why have you bared our hearts out and trampled them with carriage wheels, lit them on fire, and then trampled the ashes and spit upon them? Why? Oh my God. Why? This is the saddest this manga has made me in a very, very, very long time. I think that it's the saddest I may have ever been at this point in the series. The fudge. I mean, I was sad with the flashbacks, but I was sad back then at the flashbacks, but you know what? It was all in the past. So it's like, it's one thing when you watch a really sad flashback, but you know it's a flashback, so it's things that have already happened. You know how things are in the present. And so even when it's really, really sad, there's a part of you that goes, well, but you knew it was always going to be sad because it's in the past, right? So when you go back to the present, it's a different vibe. No, this is happening right now, and I hate it. Kusanagi, you cannot kill off the dragons. I'm like about to cry. You cannot kill them off. You can't kill off Hasina and Zeno. Zeno can't die. So what? It's something to do with the chalice, isn't it? Isn't it? Is it the fact that Chagel has the chalice and he wished to be reborn? Is that what's happening? Is something like, what is going on? What is happening? Why is the chalice gone? Why couldn't they find it? Did Chagel get reborn into a dragon? What is going on? I don't know. And I'm just like, I don't know. The whole thing about Chagel's asking that he wishes he could be reborn as something else. He's holding the chalice as he does it. I'm like, is Chagel going to become a dragon? Is that it? What? I'm so sad, y'all. I am like about to cry. I am so sad. I this was not everybody in the Discord. Everyone in the Discord was like, "We can't wait for you to read. We can't wait for you to read Volume 42, Romania. We can't wait for you to read it." Like the way they were saying it is just like the way you all were saying it was just like, "Oh, we can't wait for you to read that volume, Romania." Like it was gonna be like this epic makeout session between Hak and Yona. Like Soo-won and Hak were gonna have words, which they did, and it was gonna be like this amazing, like they were gonna hug each other or something. And instead, you just wanted to see me writhe in pain. I didn't even get to see Maignan and Val get it on, which would have been somewhat of a reprieve, somewhat of a trade-off, but no. Thanks, Kusanagi. I hate it. I'm like, I know Kusanagi is probably gonna make things better, right? But she's making us go through hell before we get there. I mean, I was feeling a little bit worried in the last volume. I was like, things look really dour. And then whenever, Vold and Algira showed up and saved Yona, I was like, oh, okay, well, things are on the up and up. We're doing okay. And then ever since the dragons have disappeared, it's just gotten bad, really bad. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if being away from Hiryu Palace and with the Chalice is making their powers act up, but it's not. The only thing I can figure is that maybe because they're away from Hiryu Palace, but the Chalice is there, that it's causing the deities to come out of the bodies of Jeha and them, and they can't control it, and so they're having trouble trying to keep the dragon powers separated from combined with their bodies. Maybe the only thing I can see is that what if the dragons leave Jeha and Sheena and Zeno and Kija, the dragon powers and the dragons leave them, but they remain, like they're mortal and they stay behind. Like if that would happen, I mean, granted we still have to fight South Kai, granted we still have battles to face, but if the powers leave them and they get to stay mortal and stay with Hak and Yona in them, and the dragon powers leave and go somewhere else, fine. I mean, what if the dragon powers like leave? What if the dragon powers, because of the Chalice being with Chagel, what if the dragon powers left Jeha and Sheena and Zeno and Kija and went to somebody in Kai, and they went to them instead? But they'd only listen to Yona because she's the reincarnation of the Red Dragon. Or is Yona not even going to be the reincarnation and Chagel's going to become that? He gets reincarnated? I don't know! But I just don't want Jeha and Sheena and Zeno to die. I don't want them to die. And I'm afraid they're maybe already dead. This volume was doom and gloom and despair. And I was like, nope, not having it. Heartbreak. Why are you doing this? And now I'm going to have to wait 6 months to find out what fresh hell awaits. I'm going to watch some freaking happy things now after this is over to feel better about myself. I'm going to go watch some Kroko's basketball dub to feel better. God. Okay. So let's just talk about these chapters the best that we can. Chapter 41, Chagel and Ron, like them dying. I was like, so we beat Chagel, but at what cost? Right? I am sad that Ron died. I'm really sad that Ron died because they were a really good character and they were very loyal, and they had like their relationship with Hak and the depth of their character was really interesting. And I am sad, and the fact that they died being loyal to Chagel and saving him is just, it was really, really well done. And the entire concept of being born in different worlds. If we'd been born in a different world, would we act different than now? Would our perspective be different if we had been born under a different sky? Or, and it's a really good commentary. I like Kusanagi. I like that for a shoujo, Kusanagi ties into some very interesting concepts that we see in Vinland Saga, that we see in Berserk, which, knowing now that the mangaka, I'm watching Berserk for the first time now, and knowing that the mangaka of Berserk and Kusanagi were really good friends makes so much sense. And now I'm just sitting here like, oh my god. But, and like the guts and Hawk comparison is great. Although Hawk is not as buff as Guts, and that's probably a good thing. But yeah, it does bring the back to fact to light that people during war, you realize that everyone on either side are going through some similar feeling of pride in their own country, of their people and family, and that need for protection, and that, you know, we're not so different, you and I, and, you know, if you just been born in a different world, it would be different. And it was so sad. I wondered if the 3 arrows on Ra-on's back was like indication of like the 3 dragons, if it was like 3 arrows for 3 dragons, if it was some kind of exchange there, if it was just symbolic, what it was. And then Chagel with the chalice. And it was interesting that Chagel pointed out, he was like, is this my fault that Ron died? Because I injured his left eye and his left arm. He wasn't able to see the arrows, so he couldn't save himself or dodge them. And so it's interesting to see Chagel kind of reminisce and sort of come full circle and realize that his actions had consequences, and that if he hadn't done certain things, he might have lived. So it's interesting, right? But then the chalice, he's holding it. Like, what is that? I feel like him talking about being reborn and the spoils and everything, and like the blood getting on it, I feel like it's had an effect on Jaeha and the others, but they don't know what it is. I don't know what's happening. Kusanagi's not telling us anything, and I hate it. But yeah, Hak and Yona and Kija all want to help. And Kisuk, of course, during this whole entire chapter 241, Kisuk is trying to like maintain order, because he's like, you guys can't just run off to find the dragons. We have a war to fight, and we need you all. Hawk's been like carrying this whole thing on his back the entire time. And then Soo-won is saying no. And the idea of Yona sensing the dragons, like Yona being able to sense the dragons, has come a long way from her not even realizing what was going on. I don't like where this is going. I just, ugh. And the fact that she's had these visions, I don't know what to do with it. So chapter 242, the dragons have changed into spirits, but why? Like, did they die on the battlefield? Or are they like trying to protect themselves, and they're in like, is it one of those things where they're so weakened, in such a weakened state that they can't, is it one of those things where the body's in such a weakened state that they're trying to hold on and not get reborn and not die, but the dragon powers are in conflict with that, and so the dragon powers have just taken over because their bodies are too weak to like resist? The fact that Zeno can't give us an explanation, and the fact that I feel like Yona needs to see Zeno in her dreams a few more times so we can find out what's happening, but something's begun. I don't like it. I don't know if it's the process of, but see, I don't think it's the process of the dragons being reborn, because we've not seen this happen any other time, right? So, yeah, Kija having his legs hurt. That's a nice plot point that Kija can't travel without his legs because of his legs being hurt, but then they slowly start to heal. And then Soo-won wants to take advantage after Chagel and Ra'an's death and immediately go after South Kai. He's like, now's the time to strike. They're weak. Let's go. I'm surprised that Gunte stepped up and was like, no. For Gunte, who's been so battle ready this entire time, in like earlier on in the series, he's like, I can't wait to fight. And now he's the one having reservations. And Gunte's like, now hold on a second. My men, which it makes sense. They talk about it after the fact. They're like, Gunte's the one that's lost the most men. He's like, we need to recuperate. You need to recuperate. Soo-won is desperate. At this point, Soo-won is so sure that he doesn't have time left, that he wants to get all he can done now, and he wants to try to defeat South Kai so he can leave everything to Yona. And we'll talk about that chapter. Oh my God, 243. And just the idea that he wants to try to get as much accomplished before he dies as possible. And Gunte's like, that's nice, but also you physically can't. Like, we will fall apart if we try to fight now. We have to recuperate. We need the dragons. We can't just go running in now. And so Yona wants to go find the dragons. Hak is like, the moment that Hak in chapter 242, like, she was crying and he like swept the tear off her eye. Come on, y'all. I just, so yeah. And then Hak running into Soo-won. I want to go back to chapter 243 because it's like we've waited so long for Soo-won and Hak to have a heart-to-heart conversation, and we finally get it, and it is the most heartbreaking thing that could be. It is so freaking heartbreaking that they both see each other, and Hak doesn't understand the sickness. I forgot that Hak didn't know about the sickness, didn't know about the dragon's lifespans, knew nothing about this, and has been in the dark this whole time, and now it's just a big drama fest. And the way Kusanagi draws him, I'm like, what are you doing? And so, yeah, Hak playing it off as a drunkard, and then getting Soo-won to go to the shack, and the parallels between Hak in the shack with Soo-won and Hak in the shack with Yona, I'm like, of course, no makeout sessions here. I joke that I ship Hak and Soo-won, but honestly, I view them very queer platonic. Like, they're soulmates on such a level, but it's not sexual, whereas Hak loves Yona romantically. He's like, this sickness. And he finally explains that the illness can't be cured. And Hak's like, wait, what? And he's like, I want you and Yona and them to go search for the dragons. And you need to go find them now. And God, the tension between him and Hak when he's like, I'm aware I'm not your king. And Hak's like, I'm glad that Hak gets to unload in this moment, that he gets to be passionate and empowered and emotional and be like, look, here's a piece of my mind. And then Soo-won's like, yep, I deserve that. Because Hak's like, he's like, you're asking me instead of Yona, why? He's like, and then Hak realizes that he's like, you've brought me here. It's almost like it was a test. He's like, you brought me here because if I wanted to, I could kill you now and there's nothing you could have done. And that's when Soo-won, like the fact that it goes across Hak's mind, that the possibility that Soo-won brought him here to see if he'd take revenge, and the fact that Hak has wanted to hurt Soo-won for a while now, and it all comes to a head. But Hak doesn't really want to hurt Soo-won, and when he tells him he doesn't have much time left, like just that expression, oh my God, that Hak has on his face. And he talks about the affliction, right? Talks about the affliction and everything, and that he's a descendant of King Hiryu. And the moment, though, that he says about the dragons having the short lifespan, and Hak's face, and he realizes Yona's dream and Yona's vision, that expression, I was like, Kusanagi, you cannot make Hak have that expression. No, absolutely not. How dare you? How dare you? No. And the vision of everything in the fire. And then he keeps having, like, him and Maignan having all of this tension. He's like, I couldn't have a child because even if I did, the successor might have the sickness. And so I've been searching for one. And then he's like, I want Yona to be the next ruler of Kroka. And that's such a loaded thing because what's so fascinating about it is what Hak goes off on. But there's also the underlying implication that Hak is like maybe been toying with the idea of him being with Yona, and the fact that she's not been in line for succession makes it seem like, maybe her and I could be together and we could slowly have that, develop. But if she becomes queen, whoever she marries will become king. And if Soo-won dies, then Hak is going to be like, well, is she going to have to marry someone else? And I'm like, no, you idiot, you're going to have to become king. But that opens up in a whole nother can of worms of Hak being like, well, if I marry Yona and I become king, does Hak even want to become king? So it's like, we talked all this time about Hak and Yona wanting to like go off and not be in charge. And I'm like, part of me wonders if Yona would dissolve the monarchy and like have a council, kind of like the tribes, kind of make it a council of tribes instead of one monarchy, and that would let her and Hawk be together. But right now you can't even think about that because we have the dragons to find and all of this. But just Hawk being like, but then he's like, excuse me, you mean to tell me that you killed the king, you led Yona on this wild goose chase and made her so upset and ruined our lives just for you to say that, oh, never mind, actually I do kind of want her to become queen. And then what he says, he's like, are you kidding me? After everything, you murdered her just to make her the next ruler. Since the beginning, if you had married her, you could have handed her your political power, and you would have done it without anyone getting hurt. And that's when Soo-won says, you know, what the answer is. He's like, oh, well, he's like, Yona she wasn't prepared to be queen then. She was a spoiled brat then. And King Il would never have given me the opportunity to be with Yona. He's like, so it wouldn't have worked with King Il there. King Il had to go so I could be with Yona, and Yona he basically is implying that Yona needed to change to become queen, which is, you can argue it's true, but I love what Hawk says. He's like, this was the only way for you. I love Hawk saying that you think she wasn't good enough back then, but isn't it just that you couldn't see her potential? I'm like, oh my God. That's kind of like, I just finished Millionaire Detective, and there's a character in Millionaire Detective that goes through a slump. They hit a wall, they change as a person, and there's another character around them that had been with them that said that they fell from grace, wasn't a hero anymore, and then at the very end they become a hero again. But then the character that's like, you know, the shippable love interest to that main character says, oh no, you've always been a hero. And I love that Hawk is like, he gets so mad. He's like, excuse me, in the first place, she's always been good enough. Like, it's not she couldn't do anything. It's like she made those abilities her own. You chased her away. And once she comes back, you're selfish. And now you want to make a ruler out of her so you can use her. When will you be done toying with her? God, that moment he like slams up against the door at Soo-won. And Soo-won at this point knows that Hawk loves her. Knows that. He's like, yep. Like the way he's looking up at Hawk, when he slams against the wall, he's like, yep. I know that you love her. And like, it's very obvious. He's like, I am terribly selfish. I didn't want to choose her either. He's like, I thought of everybody, but she was the only one that had all the traits: decisiveness, leadership, wisdom, popularity. And then the way Kusanagi draws Hawk when he says, it's her, the 4 dragons, and you who can protect the kingdom when I'm not here. Yep. He's like, you all have to do it while I'm gone. And that's when Hawk's like, I made that wish, that I wanted people to notice her. I wanted her to stand out. And he's like, why did my dream have to come true in the worst possible way imaginable? Oh my God. He's just like, I wanted this to happen for her, but not like this. Oh, Kusanagi, our hearts. Our hearts. He's like, leave this place before people notice and take Yona with you. What did he say, though? Like, what did he say? And then he leaves. For that long time. So that for a long time to come, I made that vow, but I have to forget it now. What did he say to him? I hate that Kusanagi didn't tell us. And now they're parting ways. It's like Hawk, that promise that Hawk said years ago that he would stay by Soo-won's side as he was king. Now he's like, Soo-won's like, well, I'm not going to be king anymore. I'm going to make Yona queen. And Hawk's like, but I want to know what he said. Why? Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. So then we get chapter 244. We get chapter 244. And Maignan wanting to sleep with Val was like what I needed after this moment. And then Kusanagi didn't give it to us. Val's like, whoa. Val's like, now's not the time. And I'm with Maignan. She's like, dude, I could die any minute. We got a short time. She's got Reiner mentality from Attack on Titan. She's like, we got a short time to live. Let's go. And then the thing of it is Val doesn't know about the sickness. He doesn't know. So it's like, it's basically like Val and Maignan. I know there's a lot of comparisons of Val and Maignan to Hak and Yona, but Val and Maignan is essentially what Soo-won and Hak would be like if Soo-won was a woman. Basically. I mean, personalities are different, but the whole romantic angle of it and the dynamic is essentially the same. Because Val still doesn't know about the sickness, even though he's still concerned. And then Kaji and Val go with her to see Hyuntae. It felt like, it was interesting. It felt like with Maignan, it felt like she was like Yona, and Kaji and Hyuntae and Val were like her dragons. It was kind of interesting. It was sort of a play on that. I was trying to, in the reaction, think of like, because you have Hyuntae, Jaeha, I was trying to think of them in comparison with that, but it doesn't quite fit, but it's interesting. And then Ron, we get confirmation that Ron and Chagel are dead. However that works. And then Kusanagi gives us Yoon crying. Kusanagi gives us Yoon crying because he's sad that they all went away and left him. And he's like, remember when we started out on this journey and it was Yona and me and Hak? And I was like, yes. And you're making me really sad. And then he's just like, we just have all had all these adventures together. And now they're all separated. And I'm like, Kusanagi, if you kill off these dragons and you don't have them meet up with Yoon one more time, I am going to chuck this entire series through a window. I was like, no. I know Kusanagi before has made us feel really sad. And then she's been like, oh no, JK, it's all right. It's all good. But she's really tugging the heartstrings now. I'm like, I am devastated at this point. How dare. So devastated. I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? And then so Kija and Yona depart, and it's just sadness all around. Just sadness all around. Now I had to go back and re-edit because the one side I was looking at for chapter 244, I noticed was leaving out pictures, and I was like, oh no. So I'm sorry I had to go back and reread part of chapter 244. I'm glad I did, because there was like the whole thing with them running into the little boy. Yes, the little boy who pretended like Hak was his dad. I love Kija punching him, being like, how dare you tell us? And getting confirmation that Yona was very sad that Hak was, the confirmation that Yona was very sad that Hak was possibly with another woman. Love that and Hak realized that. And I was like, oh, I feel like when all this is said and done, like Hak and Yona, OTP, getting together, but we've got too much trauma between now and then. And then Jaeha shows up in this dragon form. Like, what's the deal? I don't like the skeletal dragon. I don't like it. And so Jaeha is afraid that he can't keep human form anymore for some reason. And Kija's like, what is happening? He says, we tried to escape, but the South Kai remnants came, and that's when the dragons came out from them. So he's like, they may have turned involuntary into dragons to protect themselves. So the crazy thing is they've done this before to protect Yona, but it was temporarily. And so then they did it temporarily to protect Yona, but in this case they did it to protect themselves. So I wondered if they're not allowed to do that, if there's something with that. And he's like, I have to cling on to my own consciousness as to not lose my grasp on it. He's like, does this mean I'll become a dragon too? And Yona's like, well, let's just go back to Hiryu Palace and we'll be fine. And she asks Jaeha to go home together with her. And he says this is goodbye. He's like, I'm going to turn into a monster sooner or later and forget everything about you, so I can't go home. And I'm like, but the whole point of the dragons was that they'd always remember the king. So what is going on? Is it the fact that Chagel asked to be reborn and had the chalice, and that's going to cause them to like go and fight for him now, or however he's reborn. What is happening? What is going on? And he's like, I wanted to come home. I have to return to where I can hear everyone's voice, but the dragon is keeping him from getting to where they are. And I don't know why the dragon is keeping them away now. He's like, I'll reach the end of my lifespan soon. And that's when Yona finds out their lifespan ended. What Zeno said to her. You can still live. Protect Yona for me. And that's when the villagers show up and there's this big misunderstanding. And then, of course, he turns into a dragon and starts attacking them. And they're like, what the heck is going on? And then they're trying to get Jaeha. They're like, and I love Kija and Hak. Like, from the beginning, Kija and Hak, like, working together to protect Yona. It's been like that since day one, right? Been like that since day one. And of course, Kija, if you're a Jaeha and Kija shipper, what were these chapters? Of course it's Kija and Jaeha. Of course it is. But yeah, but then they ask if Yona's a monster, and she's like, no. And then, of course, the dragon protects her. Right? And he says, Miss, don't let it get away. And she reaches for him. He says, I'm sorry, thank you. And then the dragon takes off with him. Like, why? What is happening? Why is the dragon taking off with him? Son of a bitch. So I don't know. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me that Yona has always been their reason to protect her, and now Kija's the only one, and Jaeha and them aren't allowed to. Like, what is the deal? Why are they vanishing? What is happening? What is going on? So normally, 2 chapters come out a month, right? Like 2 chapters a month if we're lucky. And this chapter was 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 6 chapters. So maybe in 3 months, we'll have enough. Maybe. I'm going to need to watch a lot of happy things to make up for the sadness and stress and trauma that this volume has caused. I need answers, Kusanagi. I need answers. I'm glad Kija's there with them, but I'm worried about Kija, and I don't know why they can't be with her. Like, what is preventing them? Is it because someone has the chalice? Did whoever took the chalice from Chagol, is it because they have the chalice that they're keeping the dragons from them? But why isn't Kija affected? So, oh my God. Well, I'm going to get on Discord and talk to people on Patreon about this and get their theories and start writing those down while we still can before chapter 247 comes out. And then they have to black box everything. And then I guess 247, 248, 249, 250, 251. We'll see what the fudge. I don't know, y'all, but I'm not happy about it at all. This volume's broke my heart, and I'm going to have to watch 1,000 happy things to make up for it, so there's that. In the meantime, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, but I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and ranting discussion. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back this fall, hopefully, with my heart in peace for Yona the Dawn, Volume 43. I'll see y'all then, guys. Bye.